Hello and welcome to time series forecasting. In one of my previous R examples, I showed you relationship between consumption and income in a simple regression modeling framework. In this video, I'm going to extend the concept to include more than one variables on the right hand side of your regression model and estimate a multiple linear regression model. So let's go ahead and start by calling this library. And then we are regressing again the variable consumption, which shows the change in consumption. And here we want to predict consumption patterns based on four variables: income, production, unemployment, and saving rates, all measured in change. And the data for all these five variables is contained in this data set US change, which is a time series data. So we're gonna go ahead and regress this model using a TSLM function, which is time series linear model, and then I'm gonna save this model. So let's pass this saved model to summary command and look at coefficient values of this model. So this intercept 0.26, it shows the value of consumption when all these variables are set to equal to 0. So if income is 0, production is 0, unemployment is 0, and savings is 0, the consumption will be equal to 0.27. And then all these coefficient values, they show us the relationship between each of these variables and our dependent variable consumption. For example, the relationship between income and consumption is positive because this coefficient value is positive, which means whenever the change in income is positive, the change in consumption is also positive. Similarly, whenever the change in production is positive, the change in consumption is also positive. On the other hand, other two variables, unemployment rate and saving rates, they show a negative relationship with our variable of interest, consumption. The first thing that we can get from these coefficient value is the direction of the relationship between any of these variables and our variable of interest. The next thing we can get from these coefficient values is the strength of the relationship, which means the actual change in consumption caused by 1 unit change in any of these variables, holding all other variables constant. That is, we assume that none of the other variables are changing. So we already know that income and production, they are positively related with consumption, which means if the change in income is 1 unit, the change in consumption will increase by 0.71. Similarly, if change in production is 1 unit, the change in consumption will increase by 0.04. Similarly, we can see that the change in unemployment by 1 unit decreases change in consumption by 0.20. Another interesting statistics here is R squared, which shows the variation in our dependent variable as shown by all these four variables. All these four variables are explaining 75% of the variation in consumption, which means our R squared is pretty good and our model is fitting the data relatively well. So this is how you regress a regression model in R and interpret the slope coefficients and see how well your model is fitting the data by using the concept of R squared. In the next video, I'm going to talk about some of the ways that we can use to judge the fitness of the model by looking at the fitted values. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.